When you have open and free flowing circulation in the digestive system, in the stomach, in the intestines, then that gives it the best chance of functioning in the healthiest way possible for you to extract the fuel from the food and actually use it for energy rather than turning it into fat. So that's the idea. So for the first movement today, what we want to do is get ourselves into a lovely Qigong stance. So firstly, standing with the feet around hip width distance apart, look down at your toes and try to have the feet parallel if possible. So big toes pointing forwards, and then looking from the big toes up towards the knees, have the knees at hip width distance, little bend in the knees as well. And then if you were to draw up from the knees up towards the hips, everything is parallel in the legs. So you don't tend to have the knees falling out or falling in, and keeping the feet nice and parallel. And maybe just a little bounce up and down on the knees, just to check that they feel nice and springy and soft. You don't want a huge bend in the knees, but just a little micro bend so that you feel nice and stable and connected with the ground or the earth below you. And then just tucking the tailbone down and in, lifting up in the pelvis and the abdomen at the front here, just to encourage a little bit of openness in the lower back area. So you don't feel as though the vertebrae in the lower back are in any way kind of compressed or squashed together. And then just checking that the shoulders are nice and relaxed, shaking out the arms, tucking the chin back towards the throat. So draw the chin in rather than bringing it down, just draw it back towards your throat. So I'm thinking of that movement just going directly back towards the wall behind me. And as that happens, also imagine that you're being pulled up by a thread from the top of your head. So you feel some elongation along the back of the neck and up into the back of the head. And now bringing a smile to the corners of your mouth with the mouth closed. Beginning with some abdominal breaths. So closing your eyes for a moment and resting the tongue against the roof of the mouth with the tip of the tongue against the back of the upper teeth. Breathing in and out through the nose. As you breathe in, feel the belly expand in that lower abdominal area, and expanding forwards, sideways, and back towards the spine. So in all directions, as though you're blowing up an imaginary balloon. And as you breathe out, feeling or seeing in your mind's eye, that balloon shrinking. And the breath, ideally, wants to be smooth, soft, and silent. So no huffing and puffing is necessary. There should be no real effort involved. Just lovely and soft and relaxed. Each time you breathe out, letting go of any tension you may feel in the physical body. And relaxing the mind. In your mind's eye, see the space between the eyebrows becoming wider, creating space in your mind. So remember, especially for those of you joining me for the first time, Qigong is a combination of movements, your breath and your mind in order to create the optimum conditions for the smooth and open flow of Qi around the whole of your body and your mind. And today, paying more specific attention to the digestive system. So opening the eyes now so that you can see me. Now you can stay in this standing position for this next movement, or you can come into a horse stance. So maybe try both and see how you feel, and see which one feels the most comfortable to you. So I'm going to come into a horse stance and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to step out to the side, just a little bit wider than shoulder width distance. And as I step out, looking down again at my feet, and the outside edges of the feet should still be pointing forward. So not having the toes turned out. Often you'll see people in a horse stance and they have that going on. That's because there's not that flexibility in the hips to allow that to happen. So you may find that you need to turn the toes out slightly, but ideally, if you can, have the toes and the feet parallel facing forwards as they were for your initial stance. And now pushing the knees out to the side, so not allowing the knees to drop down and in like this. The knees need to be out above, ideally above the feet, above the toes. And in order to really feel a little bit more stability in this horse stance, again, tucking the tailbone under and tilting the pelvis forwards and up. So I'm just going to show you from the side what that looks like. So coming into the stance now. So what you would want to do is as you sit down, so you're not wanting to, if I show you here, you don't want to be sitting down and coming forwards like this so that your buttocks stick out. Ideally, you're bending in the knees coming out over the toes, and you're just dropping the weight vertically down. So you see how my back is still straight. I'm not leaning forwards, I'm not leaning back, and I'm not sticking my backside out. What I'm doing is I'm tucking the tailbone under and then bringing the pelvis forward, lifting slightly in the abdomen. So the difference between incorrect, which is this, and correct, which is this, involves a tilt in the pelvis. Do you see? Okay, so you might want to just try that and feel the difference. This gives you a much more, once you're in this correct stance, gives you a really solid grounding, solid balanced foundation. So you may want to try that, but horse stance, if you're not used to it, it's quite difficult to hold for a period of time, but it's fantastic for building up a little bit of leg strength and a bit of balance, okay? So you can be in this stance, as I said, or you can be in your regular Qigong stance, whichever is easiest for you. So this exercise today is a variation of one called the Swimming Dragon. And for those of you who are in my Space to Relax membership site, in my paid program of Qigong lessons, then you have this in much, much more detail, and you have the full version of it there. But this is a slightly simplified version because these classes are aimed at beginners and for anyone to follow along with, but you will still get some benefit from this variation. So from this position, what I'd like you to do is bring your hands together and just bring them to heart level here. So palms are touching, fingers are touching, elbows are lifted up slightly, but not too much tension. Keep the shoulders nice and relaxed. Make sure they're far away from your ears. So don't allow the elbows to drop down too much. You do want a little bit of action going on in the arms. Now, with the Swimming Dragon exercise, what we want to be thinking of is creating lots of kind of action and twisting motion in the abdominal area. So first of all, we'll work with the movement, and then we'll bring in the breath, and then thirdly, the mind. So firstly, what I'd like you to do is just move your hands over to one side. You may find the weight shift a little bit. Don't be too kind of severe or tense in any of your movements. Just go with the flow with this, and then look in the opposite direction, over the opposite shoulder. Now already you should feel a bit of a twist in the body. And now come back to the center with the head and the hands, and go the other way. So move the hands across, keeping them up more or less at shoulder level, looking across the opposite shoulder, and back again. Now let's get this movement nice and flowing. So moving and flowing, so keeping the movement continuous now. And you may feel that the legs come into this a little bit, the waist comes into it a bit. Just aim for a lovely, smooth, relaxed movement to begin with. Now, obviously, if you have any issues with head, neck, shoulders, any injuries or any limitations in your movement, only go as far as is comfortable for you. Don't pull any muscles, don't put your joints under any strain. Even if you could only do tiny movements like this, that's absolutely fine. Those of you who have a full range of movement, then extend to the side as much as you can by still keeping the palms together. And now let's do this with the breath. So bringing the breath into this now. So breathe out as you go to the side, breathe in as you come to the center, and then out to the other side. Breathe in to the center, out to the side. So you might need to slow this down now, depending on your speed of breathing. So work to your own comfort level. Don't just follow me. Everybody's going to be breathing at a different speed. Now keep going with this, breathing and moving. And now think about what we're doing with the organs of the digestive system in the abdominal area. So as you turn the head and neck to one side, the hands are going to the opposite side, and that's creating a lovely twist. It's a bit like wringing out wet clothes. It's as though you're wringing through the abdominal area, giving it all a little bit of a squeeze. And that squeezing action, or that twisting action, is helping to stimulate circulation in the stomach, in the small and large intestine, and really allowing for more easy and smooth flow of qi, blood, and fluid throughout the area. And because of that, this exercise can help to rid any excessive bloating that you might feel around the middle if you're accumulating fluid. It also helps to balance your blood sugar levels, so regulate your appetite. So that's its role really in the weight management side of things. But it also brings much more energy, gives a little bit more oomph to your digestive system so that it can do its job of extracting energy and fuel from the food that you're eating. And rather than turning it into fat, actually using it for the healthy functions that take place in our bodies. And now, just for the end of this exercise, just get really relaxed with this and create a little bit more of a twist, even more kind of turning the shoulders. Looking in the opposite direction, and then see if you can get more of this kind of wringing out, twisting action, bringing your mind to the abdominal area. So although you're using hands and head here to move, the focus of your mind is actually in the abdomen. And you might find that you just come a little bit out of the stance that you're in. You may find the knees straightening and bending and twisting. But if you're in a horse stance, try and keep the stance fairly low, because again, that's just really giving you that extra grounding and foundation and really helping to create more strength in the thighs. And now just bringing the hands slowly back to the center. Close the eyes for a moment. And finish with 3 abdominal breaths. Smiling. And then if you were in a horse stance, stepping together, coming back to your Qigong stance of hip width distance apart, allow the hands just to drop down by your sides. And again, just close your eyes and observe anything physically in your body, which is a little bit different from the beginning. So I can definitely feel my heart beating faster. That's quite an energetic practice. I feel my hands are warmer and a little bit more tingly, and overall in my body, I feel a little bit warmer as well. I definitely feel the effort of being in a horse stance. I can feel it in my thighs, so I know they've had a little bit of a workout too. And now gently opening the eyes. So that's a variation of the swimming dragon exercise, which, as I said, can help to encourage that lovely free and open flow of qi, blood and fluid around this whole kind of middle area where the digestive organs are housed. And that enables them to then function much more efficiently, which then will help you to reach a healthy, balanced weight or rid any excessive fluid in this middle part of your body when all of that is functioning at its optimum. So that's a movement that there's among many movements which you can use in order to help with healthy weight management.